The fiscal year 2012-2013 state budget has been passed. Let's spend 5 minutes with State Representative Mike Reese of the 59th Legislative District in Fayette and Westmoreland counties and get his impressions about this new spending and revenue plan. This budget had several different looks from the time Governor Corbett presented his plan and now the House plan has been passed. What do you like about this plan in particular?
The most important part of this budget is that it lives within its means. It recognizes that there's only so much revenue coming into the state and we can't spend more than what's actually coming in. But it still meets the needs of Pennsylvanians. It actually increases spending a little bit, about 1.5%, $380 million roughly, and it funds some very important programs.
Mike, despite the clamoring for more spending, there are still some tough times ahead that have to be faced, aren't there?
Absolutely. That was really a focus. Whenever we were looking at our total spend number, we recognized that ultimately we have some obligations out there, some pension obligations and some Medicaid obligations. Those costs are going to skyrocket in the next several years, and we have to address those issues. So this year was very critical. Last year was a very tough budget. This year was a tough budget, but we recognized that there were needs here in Pennsylvania. The governor, for example, in his original proposal, of course, he had different economic outlooks than we currently have now. But the governor had some pretty steep cuts in there, and we recognized we were able to backfill some of those cuts. For example, the accountability block grant, K through 12 education was very important. We were able to restore that 100%. And of course, there was about a $160 million cut in human services, and we were able to restore almost $83 million of that.
And there was a restoration in higher education too, which I know a lot of people were talking about, and certainly with the education experts you talked to in the district, everybody was pretty much saying the same thing about that too, weren't they?
That's correct, and we were able to flatline higher ed, which I think was a good thing for them. And of course, we just heard from Temple University that they have made a commitment to hold the line on tuition, which is very, very important to make higher education affordable for middle-income families.
Mike, something else that's going to tie into this in the future is the fact that obviously now the full effect of the health care law is not known in terms of its cost and what else will happen, but that is something that down the road budgetarily will have to be faced, isn't it?
That's right, Ray, and that's very, very important in this discussion, that ultimately our Medicaid expenses are going to go up because of the federal mandate. So depending on how this all plays out, we might have some very, very high costs there, and we have to be aware of that.
So just to kind of recap everything where we are at this point as a final question, we have gone through a number of years of increased spending. We have now had 2 budgets in a row that have effectively controlled spending. And is this the start of a trend? Do you think that that's going to sustain down the road?
Absolutely. I hope it is. I hope it's a trend of government living within its means. Look, we faced a real funding cliff because obviously we had the federal stimulus money come in to the tune of $2 billion. So we almost had a hyperinflation situation. And what we did last year was we controlled that spending, we reduced that spending, and now, of course, we grew spending under the index, mind you, responsible levels of spending this year. So I think it put us on a path for success in Pennsylvania. And very important to this is we didn't increase taxes. We didn't go to the citizens of Pennsylvania and say, look, we're sorry we weren't terribly responsible with your dollars over the last 10 years. We're going to need more of your money to bail us out. We recognize that it's important to let the folks of Pennsylvania have their money, spend their money. They drive the economy forward, not government.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you, Ray.
If you have comments or questions about the Pennsylvania state budget or any other legislative topic, Representative Reese's contact information will appear on the screen in a few seconds. Thanks for joining us and spending 5 minutes with State Representative Mike Reese.